All right, 7 minutes before the top of the hour, how is the Muslim world reacting to the brutal murder of American civilian Nick Berg? Arsalan Iftikhar is the legal director of the Council on American Islamic Relations, and he joins us from our D.C. bureau. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
You know what? We have looked, we've scanned the Arab newspapers, we've scanned things like Al Jazeera and a lot of the Arab outlets, and we don't see hardly any outrage. And we're disappointed.
Well, and rightfully so. I think that what we have to keep in mind is that there have been very prominent Islamic scholars and communities who have condemned this brutal execution. For example, Al-Azhar University in Cairo, Egypt, which is the preeminent Islamic institution in the whole Muslim world, 5 of their advisory board members condemned the act as a senseless and brutal crime.
Well, also in Cairo, you speak of Cairo, a columnist for one of the big newspapers there said yesterday in a column, the quote is, "In normal circumstances, I could condemn the slaughtering of the American, but we are living in abnormal circumstances. I cannot condemn it now."
Well, this columnist is dead wrong. We have to understand that one person does not speak for the entire Arab or Muslim world. We want to look to the statements of scholars, and especially here in America, the American Muslim community led by our organization, which is the leading American Muslim civil rights and advocacy organization, have categorically condemned this cold-blooded, brutal execution. And these perpetrators, these animals, must be brought to justice.
I understand your organization has said this is wrong, and you've made that very clear. But the people on the Arab street read the Arab newspapers, and they watch Al Jazeera. And sure, it's great to get stuff from Arab scholars, but people are reading the papers, and they're not seeing the outrage. They are outraged by the prison photos, which in many cases apparently were staged. They are not outraged by what is cold-blooded murder.
Well, you have to understand that the staged photos that you speak of are a handful that were run in the Boston Globe. I mean, there were close to 2,000 pictures that were not staged, and we should not get in a debate of moral relativism here, equating the abuse of Iraqi tortures and the execution. They're both morally reprehensible. They're both absolutely wrong. And what the Arab media and the Arab street has to understand is that this does nothing to strengthen their credibility, because if they're going to show any sort of condemnation towards the Iraqi photos, they must be equally as strong in condemning this brutal murder, which is against every single teaching of Islam. And I think that, just as there was, rightful anger on the part of towards the certain American soldiers who committed the torturous acts against the Iraqis, so should there be the same sort of anger against these criminals who committed this vicious act.
You know what? There is a ray of hope. There was outrage expressed by Hezbollah. They said that they were outraged by it, but another Islamic fundamentalist outfit said they were outraged simply because the story about Nick Berg knocked the story about the Abu Ghraib pictures off the front pages of all of their newspapers.
Well, I'm not quite certain as to what group you're talking about, but I can say that they do not speak for the greater Muslim world. We here, the 6 million American Muslims that live in America today, feel as though we Muslims and Arabs in America have been castigated and been given a light of guilty suspicion because of the act of a fringe element. And so what we are trying to do is we're trying to reach out to all Americans here and people abroad as well to make sure that war comes to an end, that there's a just and peaceful resolution and reconciliation, and that we stop the spiral down the cycle of violence.
I am with you completely. All right. Arsalan Iftikhar, we thank you very much for joining us today from D.C.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right.